But Rongai and Keserian, those were proper title deeds.
But they were not, were they designated for what is, because saa ukienda ni kama mahouse mepangwa ni kazi juu nini unajua nika kubu unajua niko sure ukirudi huko kesho utapata kumbe ilikuwa ni barabara sasa iko na nyumba. So does it mean planning peke yake? Does it mean corruption? Does it mean that there is population nini? Does it mean devolution is not work? I mean devolution is not working, that was our back kwao. What does it mean? Because the only people come around opportunity. If mse anashi ametoka Kisumu na amekam Nairobi ama amekam Rongai ama ameenda wapi, anakam specifically because atakaa hapo for a while, afanye kazi ile brother yake anafanya, and then eventually aende aishi place nyingine Rongai ama aishi place arudi Dandora. But mgeni hana haki, mgeni hawezi enda hapa until I'm the kitchen. Hawezi enda buda hii ni kitchen alafu anafungua fridge. So if you think yani kabisa none of us even actually can claim Nairobi. Si tuote tulikuja na kamba basi.
You know what? I don't agree because okay, where were you? I think you were born in Yeah, you're Nairobi born. So, where were you born?
And I'm not. Machakos born.
So you're Machakos born.
Yeah.
Okay. Today, actually that's a fantastic example. Because today, if you're told, go back to the place where you were born, where would you go?
Dandora.
Yeah, but in your mind, what was the first place that you chose? Some place in Shags.
So I'm going to Dandora.
You didn't think about another
like
place?
I cannot.
Okay. If you're told the same thing, go back. Oh, okay. By the same question, if you're asked, go back to where you come from. Not where you were born, where you come from.
Of course, Shags because of my parents and stuff.
Because you have parents who come from the same place, or you identify with one parent's place. Like that is where your roots are, that is where you come from. You said Machakos. If I tell you go back to where you were born, where do you go back to?
I'd go back to Machakos.
You go back to Machakos.
Yeah.
If I said go home, where do you go? Right now,
Machakos.
Tonight, you're going to go home. Right now, go home. Like get up, go home. Where are you going to go?
I'll go to my house.
You go to your house where?
My house in Embakasi.
We've got to agree that at some point, where we are is where we belong.
Yes.
The idea that we don't belong in the spaces that we occupy makes us squatters forever in a foreign land,
now,
in our own home.
But exactly, so that's the mentality everybody has. Because think about it, me nilikuja Nairobi, my parents came Nairobi just to live. Everything they wakafanya kazi. That's why New Year's, December, kila mtu akowocha. Nobody's in Nairobi. Why? Because we don't belong in Nairobi. And the reason why, and if the evidence ni mtu anatupata kitaka hapo nje. Because if it's your home, you'll make sure your hapo nje ni safi. If it's a place that you own and you feel like it's a place, So when your story breaking down, ilitoka hapa menini ina come from your place here. None of us can claim. Of course we should, but none of us can claim that we came within. Wajaluo watasema, unajua hii Nairobi ni central. Nairobi ni ya Kikuyu, si tunakuja tu tukienda. Kikuyu sema, unajua mimi Kiambu ndio Nairobi, but na hasa naenda Kiambu. Aluya, right now even the politics that is going on sai, sema huku ni kwetu. And apparently at Nairobi ni swing states, swing whatever, because kuna ati wase wengi, so hujui nani anaweza, hujui kama ni code ama ni Jubilee. So there is shida zote, and us even asking for rights ina come from your place, your ownership and a sense of belonging.
Lakini sasa pia I have a question that is almost just a counter to this, because by this definition it means wase wako outside Nairobi are more concerned with taking care of where they're from. Is this true?
Well, for farmland, I think there's a direct implication between caring for your land and being able to survive.
Because that's a business decision as opposed to a personal one.
Yes.
Like you farm here, so
this is where your livelihood is coming from.
Precisely.
Whereas in Nairobi, this is where your livelihood is coming from, but you don't belong. Like mentally, it's a completely different idea. But then let me ask you this. Today, given the population, if you go back to your shags today, are you considered from your place or are you considered an outsider?
I'm an outsider.
You're an
Kwanza
outsider.
hata sijui kijaka poa ama mannerisms
Yeah,
zangu.
and they talk your mannerisms and they're all highly entertained. Perhaps one of the solutions is that owning the spaces that we occupy.
Oh, I definitely agree.
As in, not that I necessarily own the title deed to it, but that I have rights by the virtue of being here. And by virtue of the fact that I live here and that I work here.
Yeah.
That then I can ask that it be a certain way. Otherwise, we are forever squatters in the place where we spend the most productive part of our lives. Giuliani, don't worry. When you're like 93, we will send you back to
Atiocha.
wherever you come from. You will stay there for 3 days. Then you'll either go to the coast or you'll come back to your house in Nairobi because you have no identity there.
And connection.
And yet, this is the place where you belong, even though ancestrally you came from there. Even worse is now the person who comes from different places, whose mother and father don't come from the same place.
Yeah.
Where do they belong? Nairobi only belongs to those people. It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense at all. And perhaps that's one of the starts of this conversation is own the space that you occupy. As in my space, my services, my rights.
And demand.
There's a friend of last weekend I was in Aga Khan, so we were doing this talk. And then Aga Khan Academy. And then so we were doing presentations and stuff. And then this Kaja Saum Rambo. So she was talking about public spaces and buildings and culture and whatever. So akapatia example I can't remember exact words, but I could show setting ya Ocha when you saw kona build how around sijui nini ndio silikuwa ni boma ni sababu iko round, not because but now akapatia example now let's say China or Hong Kong ndio kuna hizo building refu zinakaa no zimejipanga kila kitu iko sawa unaona. And then akasema what's the difference between E na E? The difference between hiyo na hiyo.
And that goes up.
Sio ni architect. Unakuuliza hiyo swali.
Oh, me I'm listening. Me I'm not an architect. I want an answer. Okay, so what's the difference? I'm thinking maybe like it's the fact that one has more room and land and the other ones don't. So they're trying to maximize on all the land that they have. I don't know. What's
and
the
also,
difference?
I think this is centered around community, I think. And this
there's individual.
is
Stacking.
everyone.
Okay, so if we take that to the next level, then this is centered around community and therefore human needs, whereas this is centered around factors of production. Because you want to stack as many units of production, i.e. human means, in as small a space as possible, so that they can find their way and make the infrastructure as efficient as possible, so that the units of production can go and produce. I don't know.
But
okay, what did she
She
say?
was saying that it lost connection.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the reason why everything exists is so that human being can function faster and and then they can relate to each other. That's why phone call is just an extension of nikitakunga na wewe. Now I can reach you faster. It just extended as something that I would have done anyway. Like even the discussion we're having right now, tunge discuss jioni tukiwa na kamoto hapo kando. Now the difference is that sisi tukaenda juu, so we lost touch with the real the reason why, because cities were built so that people can exchange, trade, talk and whatever. They were not built to kujitenga.
But it ended up being
because we use cities to jitenga. So that's why in any gated community kwa hii nini yetu msee wana kafence kake hapo.
Yeah.
Ndio kuna hao kuna kanini na parking but akona fence hapo. That's why you always trust huo msee kumwambia kama kwa hao yako lazima umscrutinize.
I'm going to work with that word that you used, extension and community, and say this. Let's extend this conversation. Let's extend it online. Let's really have this conversation. Let's have it already.
Yeah.
How do we create the city that we want to live in? Because we have one life. That's the Giuliani line right there. Giuliani, I'll be a vixen. We have one life. I'll come in and I'll say one life.
One life, one life.
One life. Let's live it in the city that we want to live in.
Yeah.